Yomi is Kiddushin Daf Lamadal. This is actually the Daf Yomi for the first day of the year, the first day of Rosh Hashanah. This is the Daf Yomi, and so we'll start the year the right way by recording it in advance of Rosh Hashanah, on the eve of Rosh Hashanah, as well. We're recording this Daf. So the Gemara says on the bottom of Lamed Gimel Beis, 2 lines from the bottom, Kol mitzvah saseh shazman grama, any time-bound positive commandment, men are obligated to do and women are exempt. So Gemara brings a brayso that explains this Mishnah. Tan Rabbanan, Eizohi mitzvah saseh shazman grama. What's the definition? What are examples of time-bound positive commandments that women are exempt from? He's not listing all the mitzvahs, but he's just listing some of those commandments. That's why he says, give us examples. And the Gemara explains, sukkah, sitting in a sukkah, v'lulav, shaking a lulav, shofar, blowing the shofar. This is again the Daf Yomi for the first day of Rosh Hashanah. And we're talking about the mitzvah of blowing the shofar. Men are obligated, women are exempt. The tzitzis and the mitzvah of wearing tzitzis, which is during the day and not at night. So the Gemara says, and tefillin on the top of 34a, and tefillin, and the wearing of the tefillin. The Gemara's of the position, this price is that nighttime is not a period of tefillin. Or else, the Gemara's of the position that Shabbos and Yom Tov are not times for tefillin. And so therefore, since there are times when you're not obligated to wear tefillin, therefore it's called a time-bound positive commandment. Gemara says, what's a time-bound command? What's a positive commandment that's not bound by time? Top of Lamed Daled Amud Aleph, mezuzah, putting a mezuzah up on your door, ma'aket, putting a fence around your roof so you don't fall off. Aveda, if you have a lost object that you found, you have to return it. Shiluach hakin, the sending away, shiluach hakan, the sending away of the mother before taking the bird or the eggs. And so these are the examples of positive commandments that are not bound by time. So the Gemara asks the question, is this a fixed rule that any time-bound positive commandment women are indeed exempt from? What about matzah? Hare matzah. Women have to eat matzah on the first night of Pesach. That's an obligation. And Rashi reminds us, how do we know it? Because it says, because ba'erev tochu matzos, and we know that it's only on the 15th of Nisan, and women are obligated, like it says in Pesachim 43b, because it says lo sochal av chametz shivas yamim tochal av matzos. So whoever's in the commandment not to eat chametz is in the obligation to eat matzah. And since women can't eat chametz, therefore they have to eat the matzah. So since women, even though it's a time-bound commandment, women have to eat the matzah. And simcha, the idea of rejoicing on a festival, that's also a time-bound positive commandment. It says v'samachta b'chagecha, and yet women are obligated in the mitzvah of rejoicing on the festival. So this, by the way, this holiday, this daf is the daf in the Talmud that talks the most about festivals. And here we're talking about shofar, lulav, sukkah, and the festivals. We're getting ready for Yontif here with this daf. So we say in Simcha, women are obligated in Simcha. And Hakel, that's the mitzvah of gathering on the last day on Chol Moed Sukkos and hearing the king read the Torah in the courtyard of the temple. The mitzvah saseh shazman grama, these are all time-bound positive commandments, and nashim chayavos, and women are still obligated in it. And also furthermore, v'chein, and furthermore, Visu hare Talmud Torah, period v'rivyo, pidyon ben. What about the idea of studying Torah that we said earlier that women are exempt from it? And also the idea of being fruitful and multiplying, of having children, that we said in Yevamos that a man is commanded about the mitzvah of puruvua, but not a woman. And we learned from the fact that it says it, you have to conquer the earth. It's a man's manner to conquer and not a woman's manner to conquer. And so therefore she's not commanded the mitzvah of puruvu. One of the common explanations is because it's life-threatening for a woman to give birth. Torah can't command you to do something which is going to put your life in danger. But women are not commanded in the mitzvah of having children. So there's Talmud Torah, and there's Puravu, and there's Pidyon Ben, redeeming the firstborn.
What stuff are you doing?
We're doing Lamed Daled. We're doing Lamed Daled, Daf Lamed Daled. So we're in the middle of Kiddushin Lamed Daled. So there's the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, Puravu, and Pidyon Ben, redeeming a firstborn son, that even though these are lav mitzvahs l'seisha zman grama, these are not time-bound positive commandments. The nashim maturas, and yet we say women are exempt. So why do you say women are obligated in all positive commandments and are not bound by time? Where here we see that they're exempt. So I'm Rabbi Yochanan, ein lamedim min hakolos. So Rabbi Yochanan says, anytime the Mishnah says klal like this, kol mitzvos say, kol mitzvos say, any positive commandment, any negative commandment, we can't learn from them. We can't derive anything from them because it's lav dafka. It's not exact. And even where it says everything except for this, it's still lav dafka. So the Gemara gives us a general rule that anytime we say a general rule in the Talmud, it doesn't mean it exactly. It doesn't mean it specifically. Even in the case where you say chutz, what's the proof of this? The Tanan, b'kol ma'arvin u'mishtatfin, that you can make an erev chatzeros with anything. You can make an erev for Shabbos with anything, u'mishtatfin, and you can do a shituf nevo. You can do a partnership to carry in an alleyway with anything. Chutz min hamayim u'melach, with the exception you can't use water or salt to bind everybody together in this partnership to allow them to carry in the courtyards and the alleys. Gemara says, are those all the cases? V'suleika, are those all the cases? V'ika kamenu pitrios. You're not allowed to use mushrooms either. So we see from here, you don't learn out anything from the general rule. From the klal, you can't derive a general principle. Even in a place where you say chutz, in general, you can't derive a general rule from it. Like Nora says, are women really exempt from time-bound positive commandments? What's our source? Gomer mitfillin. We're going to learn it out from the tefillin. Rashi explains we're going to learn that by doing a comparison with tefillin, which is a time-bound positive commandment, and women are exempt. So to all time-bound positive commandments, women are going to be exempt from. Gemara is going to ask later on. Rashi says, why don't we learn now? Why are we comparing it to tefillin and saying they're exempt? Why don't we compare it to hakel and say they're liable, just like they're liable by hakel? Well, before we get to that, the Gemara is going to try to prove it from tefillin. Ma tefillin nashim b'turos, just like women are exempt from tefillin. Av kol mitzvos l'seisha zman grama nashim b'turos. So women are going to be exempt from all time-bound positive commandments. Gemara says with tefillin gamar lami Talmud Torah, and tefillin is learned out from Talmud Torah, from Torah study. Ma Talmud Torah nashim b'turos, just like women are exempt from Torah study. Tefillin nashim b'turos. Also from tefillin, women are going to be exempt. V'nakish tefillin mezuzah. Why don't we compare tefillin to mezuzah and say that just like they're obligated in mezuzah, so too they're obligated in tefillin. Where it says tefillin l'talmud Torah iskish. Now we're going to compare tefillin to Torah study because tefillin l'talmud Torah iskish. We're going to compare tefillin to Torah study. So therefore, meaning to say just like because they both have Torah involved in it. So the Gemara says, "V'nakish tefillin Talmud Torah iskish, bein b'parsha rishona, bein b'parsha shniya." So tefillin is going to be compared to Torah study, whether in the passage of Shema or whether in the second paragraph of Shema where it says "Kshartem osai yedchem," whereas tefillin mezuzah b'parsha shniya lo iskish. But did I skip a little bit? We're going to say tefillin Talmud Torah iskish ben parsha risha ben parsha shniya. Tefillin mezuzah parsha shniya lo iskish. In the second paragraph of the Shema, it doesn't mention tefillin being compared to mezuzah. Look at Rashi. Rashi says v'nakish tefillin lemezuzah l'chayav anashim. The ksiv basrei uksaftem al mezuzos. Right after it says you should do kshartem l'sayatchem v'yutzlos b'minechem uksaftem al mezuzos. So why don't we just compare, just like we compare in the mezuzah, like women are obligated, so too. And the Gemara answers, tefillin Torah is compared both in the first passage and in the second passage, because it says, V'shinantem l'vanecha, and afterwards it says, Ukshartem los, and that's both in the first passage of the Shema and in the second passage of the Shema. And so therefore, it's more logical to compare tefillin to Torah study than to mezuzah. So Gemara says, V'nakish mezuzah l'talmud Torah. Why don't we compare the tefillin to Torah study? Because just like women are exempt from Torah study, so too they're going to be exempt from mezuzah, because it says, Gemara says, don't make such a comparison, because it says, that if you fill these mitzvahs, you'll have a long life. And you're going to say just Gavri, Bayachaye, Nashi, or Bayachaye. You think just men have a long life and not women? And so therefore, we see from here that women are obligated in the mitzvah of mezuzah. You think that the mezuzah promises you a long life? You think only men should get that promise, not women? So therefore, we say the women are obligated in mezuzah. The Gemara says, can women really be patur from time-bound positive commandments? Is the source for women being exempt really learned out from tefillin? Vare sukkah, the mitzvah seishes magrama. Sukkah is also a time-bound positive commandment because it says the sukkah station with shimlas yamim, and the sukkah you shall dwell in for 7 days. And what's the reason why women are exempt? Only because it says the cost of Rahman al because it says the citizen. And the Gemara in Sukkah says to exclude women. Or not for that case, nashim chayavos. Women indeed will be obligated to sit in a sukkah. So it's not because of time-bound positive commandment that they're exempt. It's because of the word ezrach. Amar Abaye. So Abaye says itzrach. By sukkah, we need a special teaching to tell us that women are exempt from the sukkah. Why? Because you might have thought, because it says in the sukkah, you shall dwell in the sukkah. I might have thought teishvu kein taduru, that you should dwell in the sukkah just like you should live in the sukkah just like you live in your house. Madira ishvishto, just like when you live in your house, it's a man and a woman together. Af sukkah ishvishto. I might have thought that the sukkah it has to be a man and a woman together, and so therefore I would have thought women are obligated in the mitzvah of sukkah. The Rava says a different reason why we need the word ezrach to teach us that the women are exempt from the mitzvah of sukkah. We're going to learn out on top of Medal and Amabez, on top of 34b. We might have thought to say Ne'av Chamisha Asar Mechag Hamatzos. We might have said that since Sukkot says the word Chamisha Asar, 15th day, and also Pesach it says the 15th day from Malala, and just like by Pesach, by Matzos, we say Nashim Chayavos. Women are obligated in the mitzvah of Matzah. Might have said also by a Sukkah, Avkan Nashim Chayavos. Or I might have said also by a sukkah, women are obligated. So tzricha. So now we've learned, we have the upcoming holidays. We have Rosh Hashanah, women are exempt from the shofar. We have the sukkah, women are exempt from the sukkah. So why are women working so hard? Maybe that's the reason why they're exempt. A lot of the women are working so hard, so therefore the Torah says we give you a break. Gemara says Vare Re'iyah, but what about the mitzvah of the pilgrimage of going up to the temple? That women have to do. The mitzvah saseh shezman grama. It's a positive commandment bound by time. The time of the cause of Rahmana. And what's the reason that women are exempt from? We might have thought. And what's the reason that we might have thought that women are exempt? The cause of Rahmana zechor chal hotzi anoshim. That it says in the Torah that Yera'eh calls zekorcha, that all your, hold on one second. It says about the mitzvah of the pilgrimage that all your males shall see, and this comes to exclude the women. But we're not for this idea that Yera'eh calls zekorcha. I would have said nashim chayavos, that women are obligated. So why would we think to exempt them? We should have exempted them from the mitzvah time-bound positive commandment, like we learned from tefillin. So the Gemara says no. It's true. With respect to the pilgrimage, we also need to have a specific teaching, meaning to say it says Yereh calls are charcha, and that teaches us that women are exempt from the mitzvah of hakel. But otherwise, if we wouldn't have said that, we would have said that women are obligated in the mitzvah of the pilgrimage of olas re'iyah. But why? We should have said it's a time-bound positive commandment. So you might have thought to say Neila for Iya Re'iyah Me'akal. So the Gemara says you might have thought to say that the women are obligated in the mitzvah of the pilgrimage, just like they're obligated in the mitzvah of Hakal. So because the women are, we might have thought to say that women. Let me just say this again, so we're not confused here. So basically, we have the mitzvah of the pilgrimage, which women are exempt from the mitzvah of the Olas Re'iyah. That's what it says. It says that women are going to be exempt from the mitzvah of the pilgrimage. So for this reason, Gemara says, how do we know the women are exempt? Because it says zechurcha, and that teaches us the males and not the women. But otherwise, we'd say the women are obligated. But why wouldn't we say that it's a time-bound positive commandment? So Gemara says, you might have said that we compare re'iyah to hakel, where just like by hakel, women are obligated, so too by pilgrimage, they're obligated. Gemara says, well, so now the Gemara asks a question, which Rashi hinted to before. Why do we compare everything, the time on positive commandments to tefillin, to say the women are exempt? Why don't we compare it to the mitzvah of rejoicing on the festival, which women are obligated? Why don't we compare it all to the festival and say they're obligated? Amar Abaye says there's no mitzvah. The mitzvah of rejoicing on the festival is not specifically a mitzvah on her. The woman herself, Rashi explains, the woman herself is not obligated in the mitzvah, but the husband has an obligation to make the wife happy. That's the concept of the simcha. The husband has an obligation to make the wife happy. And it says, Abaya, Isha Bala Mesamcha, that the husband has the obligation to make her happy. And so therefore you can't learn from this mitzvah to all the other positive commandments that the response about the responsibility to keep them. Gemara says, Almana Ma'ikil. Remember, what about a widow who is mentioned in this mitzvah, that the widow herself has to rejoice? She has no husband to make her happy, and so therefore we should learn from her that all women are obligated in time-bound positive commandments. Gemara explains also by a widow, she's not commanded because the pasuk says Bisha Ruya Etzlo. We're talking about a case about a poor woman who's found in her domain, and the Torah is commanding us that you have to make her happy, like he's part of your family. Gemara says, "V'neilaf mehakel." So why don't we learn out from the mitzvah of hakel that just like women are obligated in the mitzvah of hakel, they should be obligated in all time positive commandments? Gemara says the reason why we don't learn out it is because mishum de matzah, mishum de matzah v'hakel shnei ksuvim mabam kecha, because the obligation of women participating in the gathering every 7 years and also in the mitzvah of eating matzah are two obligations, two distinct obligations, two verses that come to teach us the same idea that women are obligated in this mitzvah. And anytime we have two verses, anytime we have two verses that teach us the same thing, we don't learn out from it. The Gemara says, well, if that's the case, tefillin u're'iyah. What about the idea of tefillin and the idea of a pilgrimage that women are exempt from them? Why don't we say both these cases also? These are two verses that teach us the same thing, and we shouldn't learn out anything from them. The Gemara says, no, tzricha. No, the pasuk is telling us that we have a specific reason why we need to learn out that women are exempt from tefillin and re'iyah. Why? The ikas of Rahmana, because if the Torah would just tell us the mitzvah of tefillin, low cost of re'iyah, and it wouldn't tell us about the mitzvah of the pilgrimage, havamina, I might have thought to say, I might have thought that we should compare it to the mitzvah of hakel, and that women are just like they're obligated in hakel, they're obligated in the pilgrimage. Because of Rahmana Re'iyah, of low cost of tefillin, if the Torah would tell us the mitzvah of the pilgrimage, not tell us about the tefillin. Avamina akish tefillin mezuzah. I might have said we compare tefillin to mezuzah, just like you're obligated in mezuzah, so too you're going to be obligated in tefillin tzricha. So the Gemara says, if that's the case, matzah v'hakel nami tzricha. Well, what about the mitzvah of matzah and hakel? They're both also needed. There are two verses that tell us the same thing, but we need it to be said in each time. Gemara says, well, why? You'd have to tell me why it's needed. For what is it needed? And maybe if it wrote about hakel but not matzah, amina ne'av chamisha michag sukkot, to compare matzah to sukkah and tell us just like why you're exempt, a woman's exempt from a sukkah, she's also exempt from hakel. And matzah, the Torah should have written the mitzvah of matzah v'lo yakel. We wouldn't need to write about the mitzvah of hakel. V'ana amina, and I could have said, Tefelim chayavim nashim l'kol shekain. If little children are obligated in the mitzvah of hakel, for sure. If little children are obligated in the mitzvah of hakel, for sure. The hold on one second. Just give me 1 second. Hold on. So as we were saying, so the Gemara says, but I understand, but the mitzvah, and I would have said if it wrote the mitzvah matzah, I might have said hakel. I would say it felim chayavim. If the little children are obligated in hakel, nashim l'kol shekain, for sure women would be obligated. Therefore, the Torah has to tell us that the women, that there would have been no reason for the Torah to tell us that women are obligated in hakel. So therefore, it's two verses that tell us the same thing, and we don't learn from it. It says, yeah, but Hani Chamanda Amar But that's all according to the one who says that if there are two verses that tell us the same thing, we don't derive from it. But according to the one who says that even if there are two verses that teach us the same thing, we can derive from it. What would they say? And furthermore, and furthermore, how do we know that women are obligated if it's not a time-bound positive commandment? From where do we know this idea? So the Gemara says, the Yoav Mimora. We learn it out from the fact that it says, each man and his father and his mother each shall fear. Mamor and Nashim Chayavos. Just like women are obligated in fearing their father and mother. Avkol mitzvahs asay shelo zman grama Nashim Chayavos. So too, in all commandments that are not bound by time, women are obligated. But Neilach min Talmud Torah. Why don't we derive from Talmud Torah where they're exempt? Because Torah study and Puravu are two mitzvahs that come at the same time. That two mitzvahs teach us the same thing, that the women are exempt. Then you can't learn anything from it. And the Gemara is going to discuss on the Daf Yomi for Lamed Hey. But what about Rabbi Yochanan Broka, who says that women are also obligated in mitzvah Puravu? So his answer to that is Mishum Davi Talmud Torah opinion aben shnei ksuma bank echad. Now you can't learn out from it because there are two verses that teach us the same thing. So the Gemara is going to go on, but we'll stop here. This is the Daf Yomi for Rosh Hashanah. Everybody, shkoyach, should have. We'll do this in person, obviously on Rosh Hashanah day. Everybody have an amazing yontif, amazing year. We should have learned together again every year for a long time. Shkoyach.
Have a good yontif. Have a good yontif.
Shana Tova.